This week, Lebanon engaged in direct talks with Israel for the first time in decades. But just today, Lebanon's national news agency reported that Israel killed 13 people after deadly strikes in the south. So it's definitely not even immediately clear if they can agree to a framework for peace. They entered the talks with conflicting agendas. Israel ruled out discussing a ceasefire in Lebanon and demands that Hezbollah is somehow disarmed, while the Lebanese of all stripes hope the aggressive Zionist violence will cease. At the same time, Hezbollah has no representative at the talks. And all of this is in the backdrop of last week's massacre, which has shaken the country. The last several days in Lebanon have been intense, so I wanted to call two journalists I know very well there who are reporting on the ground. This is Jihad and Wael.
Hi, Afif. Thank you for having us. My name is Jihad and I work for Sky News UK.
How about you, Wael?
My name is Wael Talib. I'm working these days. I'm contributing to the Wall Street Journal, and I'm also contributing to Sky News. So me and Jihad are colleagues, actually.
We've all been colleagues in the field once before, but how's Beirut?
Wow, it's fucking wild, man. First of all, it's not something strange now to just pass by rubble and destruction. Like you will see it. It's I wouldn't say like it's everywhere, but like in every place you go, there is a chance that you'll see something. It's not that it's limited to something anymore. The image is in this, like the image is there.
Fucked up. It's just like psychological.
It's so psychological. It's so psychological. Like I believe that the Israelis, like, I mean, they know very well what the fuck they're doing, you know? Like, they know exactly how does this society looks like? You know, they know how to play on all the opposites. People are very fragile, you know, and for them to react in a way that is very emotional is very easy. Now Israel are just reaching to other communities to make everyone feel afraid. So everyone will start opposing Hezbollah. You know, I still believe that with everything that's happening, the support for Hezbollah is increasing. It's not decreasing.
Okay. But before we get into that, let's just sort of talk about feelings first. I know that's pretty lame, but what's your personal life been like the last week? Are your family, friends, like, is everybody okay? What's the feeling right now in Beirut? I'll start with you, Wael.
Is there any place for feelings right now with the situation? I don't know. I think, and when you're working a lot in the middle of a war, and I'm not complaining here, I actually find it nice, positive, that in the middle of all the chaos, you have something to contribute to. It keeps you distracted. It makes you have a goal in the middle of all the intensity and the war and the killing. You have a role in all of this, which you would like to believe that it's contributing somehow positively because you are documenting the massacres that are happening, the difficulties of the people. Of course, you see very difficult things in the field. But yes, it's when you're covering your own country as well, and your own country's future is at stake on every level. It's very hard, but I don't think on a personal level, I haven't had the time to fully process it and feel it. It's mostly eyes on the ball. I'm gonna try to. I have stuff to do. I have stuff to document as well, and this is the time to work as a journalist, despite the quote unquote cause of documenting what's happening. It's also your job. You try to make the best out of it, career wise, financially, maybe exposure wise. So all of this together.
Makes sense. What about you, Jihad?
I mean, as well as what was saying, actually, like sometimes you don't have really the time to sit down and process what you're passing through. We're just operating. I mean, from my side, I'm just operating at the time. At some point, like Netanyahu made it a bit difficult to us to keep up the pace with their crimes. So, like, you know, a lot of things to document, a lot of stories to tell. I mean, the country is just all over, like up and down, you know. Yeah, it's really hard to sit and process because like you don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
You're just moving. You're just doing your job. On the other side, like I think it can be like it would have been really hard to me if I was doing something else.
Right.
you know, like at least you know that you are part of what's happening. You are contributing the way that you can contribute, and you're just there. You're living the moment. I think if I was doing something else, it would have been much, much, much harder.
Yeah, it's really hard to be in the United States since I've left you guys. The last couple of weeks have been really weird. It's felt like I've severed myself from myself, actually. Like my cells feel like they're angrier and more confused than they were when I was in Lebanon. When I was in Lebanon, like you're saying, every day I had something to really document, do, contribute to, think about. And so now I'm here on the other side trying to do this live with you guys because that's the way I can contribute and like put your amazing work and your amazing ideas out into the world. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we can do. But you were telling me, Jihad, about how now, even since I've left, I mean, when I was there, it was a little bit like this. You can in the southern suburbs and obviously in the southern suburbs, but even in central Beirut, there was damage. But I think since I've left, you were saying that like it's just psychological because there's not many places you can go without kind of seeing some damage or passing by or just feeling it in some way in the city.
I mean, first, let's start with what the Israelis did on Wednesday was
Let's start
massive.
there. Let's start there. Let's start there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a clear escalation, a clear show of power, a clear will to terrorize everyone. And we're talking about a country that is on the edge. And I'm not talking about that this country is on the edge just because of the war. It's on the edge socially, economically, on all aspects. It's on the edge, So I mean, I'm just trying to say this to help people maybe try to imagine all the images in Beirut. It's not that you have to tend to go in this direction to see anything related to the destruction or to the war, You will feel the war everywhere now.
Mm.
Wherever you go, there's a blast site that's there. There is some rubble over here in each part of the city. I mean, it's not all over the place, but like in each direction, you might stop on a piece of destruction.
Can you
So the image of the city is now completely different.
Can you give us just a brief explanation of what happened on Wednesday for people who are listening?
On Tuesday night, the Pakistani Prime Minister announced a ceasefire between the US and Israel on one hand, and Iran on the other. And he mentioned that it includes Lebanon, which gave a lot of Lebanese some hope that things are stopping. It was reassuring. Many Southerners took this at face value, and I have relatives who drove back to their village in the south. And I was talking to him all the way while he was stuck in traffic on the way to the south. We were trying to figure out if it's really a ceasefire or not. To be honest, I never believed Israel would stop when it comes to this because I know their red lines and how they function and stuff. So it didn't make sense to me against what was being reported at the time. But anyway, soon after Israel, Netanyahu denies that the ceasefire applies, and they prove it through continuous strikes, and they issue evacuation warnings, and they make their point. Okay, their point was clear: we are not stopping. But despite this, they had to. Yeah, like the point of not there's no ceasefire, and that was totally clear for everyone. They had to commit a massacre after. There was in the afternoon. There was over 100 strikes in less than 10 minutes. We have today, if I'm not mistaken, around the number is around 350 killed. And the health ministry yesterday told me it's 99 women and 33 at least and 33 children, and it's at least around 350. And the Israeli army has the audacity to claim that this is the biggest operation against Hezbollah strikes. And they claim that it's 180 Hezbollah militants who were targeted. And what we saw on the ground, I mean, alone the 99 women and 33 children, the math of the Israelis does not add up. But add to it our experiences on the ground. We saw who was killed and who was injured and the buildings that were targeted. It's outside of Hezbollah. I mean, there were civilians killed in Dahi as well, but like in Dahi, you can make the case that it's a Hezbollah, whatever. Hezbollah has some military functionality there. It's outside of the Hezbollah functional area. It's in Beirut, it's in Alim Raisi, there's a burger place in Manara called Hanis, and the building has offices. The Western consulate lives there. Corniche al Masra is a very densely populated area. other areas too. So yeah, this is it from my part. Of course, at some point I went to the ground and heard all these tragic stories. I'm just gonna mention one very quickly.
Please.
There was a woman. She's displaced from Dahi, from Hartahrik, from Beirut southern suburbs. She was displaced where? To Ramlet al-Bayda, on the street. So her financial situation is that bad that she had to stay. She could not afford to rent the place. And if we remember, on Ramlet al-Bayda there was a massacre that
Yes.
happened on the displaced as well. So the displaced went from one place that was supposed to be targeted to somewhere that was supposed to be safe, and it got targeted. Then someone paid for her and her husband's hotel. I don't know who exactly, a person or an NGO or whatever, and they stayed in Manara, and they also had to suffer another strike of this in Manara, because the strike that happened is facing the hotel that they were staying in. Yes, Hafif.
So wait, you're saying this woman from Harit Harik
Yeah.
she got displaced from Dahia, just to repeat, from Dahia, she went to Ramat al-Baida, and then it was struck. So she took refuge at some hotel because of some NGO being able to pay for a room, and then it got struck.
Not the hotel, but the
The
building
area,
facing the hotel.
the building.
Building facing, like exactly the building facing them. So she went to Manara thinking there's
Right.
no way Manara is gonna get like what's to hit in Manara? The Hanis burger, is it the threat on the northern
Yeah.
Israelis?
They're
You
making
know,
they're making
but
shit up.
despite this, yeah. I mean, like I made this point before. How is it technically possible to kill 180 Hezbollah militants and 10 over 100 strikes in less than 10 minutes? How is it even technically possible
Well,
to
they
do?
are creative. Like, don't forget their most creative military operation where they decided to explode 3,000 devices, and so they can get really creative.
They can.
Hmm.
A very good friend of mine whose parents were like academics, one was a poet. They died. They were killed in Talayt Khayat on Wednesday. And it's so heavy to carry that. I was just texting with her yesterday, and just like after a week, she just finally emerged saying, like she really appreciates my words. And she was just responding sort of to my condolences. And it's just unbelievable because it's just so real and so close to like know someone who's just suddenly like an orphan or been orphaned or, just lost her people in her family and her parents specifically, like in Talayt Khayyat. Like it's not okay to bomb anywhere. It's criminal to watch them lie about who they're getting, who they're trying to get, and then 33 kids. You know what I mean? It's just like bold-faced lies. That's why we do these kinds of conversations, because you guys can sort of just like point out the ludicrous absurdity of it. Because the truth is those lies seem very obvious to you, but those lies are not obvious in the United States. People just
Yeah.
hear a headline and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, they're just hitting Hezbollah. Like, so okay. Jihad, were you on the ground during this Wednesday strike?
Yes, I was on the ground. I mean, this is orchestrated in a very well, and it's very well orchestrated. First of all, most of the strikes, I almost visited all the strike sites in Beirut. All of them were, I mean, I don't want to say all of them because I'm a journalist, but the majority of them were on buildings where there were displaced people. Okay. So what's the point? What are the Israelis trying to do? What are they trying to say by targeting displaced people that moved to safe places?
I think they
Like,
were trying to. Yeah, Jihad, sorry,
no,
continue.
no, please go.
I think they were trying to ruin the negotiations between the USA and Iran. I think this is their way of killing civilians, and this creates so much pressure on the negotiations that maybe it would ruin it this way. I guess there are people who function this way, willing to kill that many people to ruin such a negotiation with another to gain political win or whatsoever.
That's like the
So yeah.
ideal, right? Like the ideal is to ruin the negotiations. But even if you don't get that ideal, like, because the negotiations are very strained to begin with, you just create sectarian division and fragmentation and tension between people, anyways. That's like it just aggregates. It's this thing that can never actually like further.
That's our breakfast in Lebanon.
Yeah. it just always gets worse and worse and worse. And Israel just like is like, at least it's their version of mowing the lawn with Hamas. They like just say like, listen, we're just gonna create more sectarianism. It can't be bad. It's only gonna grow and fester and be worse. I think that's like the range of possibilities. Ruin the negotiation, but at least you get sectarianism. Like with the leaflets a few weeks ago when
Yeah.
saying, hey, inform on Hezbollah, and here's this QR code. They're basically trying to make everyone be on their side against Hezbollah, which let's talk about the negotiations first. Like,
Yeah, I mean, but let's mention the context in which the negotiations came. The Lebanese government has been begging the Israelis. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but has been begging the Israelis to engage in talks in the hopes that this would de-escalate things and to find a solution to stop the Israeli attacks on Lebanon. And the Israelis have been ignoring the Lebanese whatsoever. So what happened that made them agree to start to talk to the Lebanese on this day in this period? It's because the U.S. I'm guessing, I'm analyzing here. The negotiations were happening between the USA and Iran, and one of the Iranian conditions is a ceasefire in Lebanon as well. So I think, from a purely analytical point of view, I think the Israel announcing that it's engaging in negotiations with Lebanon in this period is a maneuver to try to separate the two fronts, to not apply the pressure, the Iranian pressure on Lebanon. I think the general idea is okay. No, like Israel does not want to negotiate its front Lebanon with Iran. We like to include it in the discussion between the USA and Iran. It wants it to be its own thing. So that was the maneuver. The internal fragmentation that it would create within the Lebanese society, because the Lebanese society is very divided on this topic. Yeah, it's another attempt as they are doing, which they gain from the way they see it, at least. Potential peace agreement is a very controversial idea within the Lebanese political scene. There are some who would support it, others who wouldn't. But I should say it's not only Hezbollah supporters who would reject a peace agreement. It's a lot of the Lebanese society.
there were huge protests the other day, right? Were those real? And were they, from what I understand,
Jihad was there.
Jihad was there. He was just telling me a little bit about it. Jihad, you were saying earlier in our conversation that these protests were pretty big and they weren't just Hezbollah supporters. I think from the United States, the way they framed these things is that they're just Hezbollah supporters. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's like a Hezbollah sort of sponsored event that, and, just give us some color on that.
Let me start with that Hezbollah did not invite to the protest.
Not officially. Not officially.
Yeah, they actually issued a statement later on, said they are against any protests at the meantime. I mean, the protest was big, and I can say, because I was there, so I can say that it's not a typical Hezbollah gathering, and we've been together several times in Hezbollah gatherings, whether they are funerals or protests or, and you can see that the type of people who are there. I mean, I would say that in normal days they are against Hezbollah. Okay, they are not pro Hezbollah, but they are pro the idea of resistance. Okay, and at this moment of what we're living, there is like these people that will not negotiate about the idea of resistance with all their disagreements with Hezbollah about a lot of things. I mean, I was telling you, like, I saw a lot of queer people in this protest, and we know that in Hezbollah's protest it wouldn't happen. Like, it's not possible. Musicians, like from all the society,
Leftists,
and
progressives, basically, is what you're saying.
I mean, there's someone who's trying to steal your land, and this is happening at this moment. At this moment, the same entity is committing daily massacres and killing your people on daily basis, and they are doing everything to take a piece of your land. I mean, what do you think about the idea of let's put our what split us on the side and try to stop this from happening?
Right.
So, I mean, I think that this is what I felt from the ground yesterday.
Yeah, because when I was in Beirut just a few couple weeks ago, it felt as though Hezbollah's support from people who weren't from its base, just it's sort of the outer edges of like its base coming to the people that are like more resistant, but not necessarily from the Shia community or from the south or from the southern suburbs, but are generally just really anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, anti-occupation, anti-colonialism. I felt like those people, the people that were kind of sympathetic to Hezbollah, even though they weren't in the base, were now not sympathetic anymore. And now, like, it was like, they were pissed off. They were like, why did you drag us into this war? We can't do this. We cannot do this. Why did you do this for the supreme leader's assassination? And not that over 10,000 ceasefire violations Israel committed over the last like year and a half. But now it sounds like all of those people, at least from what I'm understanding, and I don't mean all of them, but I just mean the feeling feels like maybe people are more pissed off now at Israel again and look at Hezbollah like, okay, well, this is
Listen, I don't want it to sound that everyone is pro Hezbollah today.
Right.
It's not like this.
Of course.
There's a massive discourse in the country, okay? But the Israelis, they really don't give you the chance to think.
Right.
They keep pushing, like guys, just give us the chance to sit and talk. Like we're just going after your massacres.
Like we could hate each other if you just gave us a second to hate each other.
Like just give us the chance and we're gonna hate each other by ourselves. Like don't do anything, just leave us. We're gonna fight.
Yes,
Like
yes.
seriously,
So
but like they are just like one after the other.
Yeah. Yeah, you can have them
yes,
anytime.
And
commenting
again,
on that because
there is a huge disappointment and frustration in the country. It's valid, it's there. And everyone has the right to express and feel whatever he's feeling this moment. But I mean, yeah, you have a bloody neighbor, a massive discourse around this topic in the country. I mean, like there are different branches into this. First branch, which is like peace deal talks. I mean, this is a taboo, kind of. It's
Of course, it's normalization, right? Like it's
I mean, as well was saying that, I mean, this opinion exists, but like, on the other side, there's like we have these two opinions of, so how are we going to negotiate? Because we have to say it out loud and clearly, because now everyone thinks that Hezbollah is against the negotiations. At the time, from day one of the escalation, like March 2nd, Hezbollah went out loud and said, like, use whatever we are doing to give you more power in the negotiations. So it's clear that Hezbollah are not against the negotiations, but Hezbollah are against the way the negotiations are being dealt.
Right.
Okay, there's someone who accepts to negotiate under fire, and there's someone else who doesn't accept to negotiate under fire. And these two opinions, I mean, they are valid.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you while you're smashing me. Stop smashing me and we can talk.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
It's a technical discussion if someone should negotiate under fire or not. But I think Hezbollah is supporting there's conflicting messaging, honestly, from Hezbollah on the recent negotiations that are happening. But as far as their MPs and their leaders, they have been saying, okay, we are for negotiations, but indirect ones, not direct ones, which personally, like, I don't find it the most prosperous idea, honestly. Like, okay, you have an enemy that has committed such war crimes in Gaza, is committing them in Lebanon, and that's way stronger than you. You have to be smart about picking your battles. Like, pick your battles, guys. The political class have been negotiating with Hochstein in the past war. Hochstein is an ex-Israeli citizen who has served in the IDF. So the political class gets to, gets to sit with Hochstein. But on the other hand, like against direct negotiations, some Hezbollah would say they are against direct negotiations. Iran is negotiating the US under fire and like direct talks. This is how negotiations happen. Honestly, I think it feeds into a populist beliefs rather than it being politically savvy.
I see.
In my humble opinion.
So you're saying Hezbollah is playing the wrong card?
I think implicitly they support such negotiations, but they try to distance themselves from it by saying, "But we are for indirect negotiations," which which can, in Lebanese we say تشحن طائفيا, but it's a populist stance in my opinion.
I mean, but you know what's the point of the indirect negotiations? Just so it doesn't sound
Let's lose that.
naive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I don't know.
there's
I don't know. When you sign a maritime
ideological
border
reason
agreement,
behind this.
yeah. But I'm saying it's not the most effective
Who
thing.
can-
I think
Yeah,
it's a
regardless,
populist,
but
idealist approach.
but
Can you-
this is not the point that's creating the conflict in the negotiations. This is kind of
Of
like
course. I
secondary.
was
What's creating
commenting
the
on
conflict
yeah.
is the peace deal or
Of
ceasefire.
course.
This is the
Yeah.
thing.
I'm only commenting on this
Behind
detail,
this
Jihad.
direct and indirect is just like, to me, is it's like this is very similar to when what was like talking about this starting the 7th of October, you know, because like if you have to go all the way back, the reason why we don't do any direct negotiations with the Israelis, and we have been in conflict with them for ages, is that you cannot accept their
Existence, you're saying. And I would argue,
so
and I would argue that
you cannot from ideological point of view, you cannot go
I
and
understand.
accept it.
I understand where
Okay,
it comes
that's why
from.
you have to go into indirect
That's
negotiations. You cannot-
normalization. It's
Exactly,
normalization, which is really,
exactly,
really
and that's it.
controversial, right?
What I mean. This is small detail, in my opinion, can be a trick
Yeah.
towards normalization.
Yeah, but it's too late, Jihad.
Okay.
You've already crossed that line.
I'm just explaining the ideological
Yes.
background behind it, just for the people
Okay.
to understand.
Wael
I
is
mean,
like
there are
to
people
it.
that,
No,
I mean,
no,
the whole
that's
idea to me is that there are people that still sees this conflict starting 1948 and not now.
sure.
That's
I
it.
understand this.
Regardless
I'm
what I
saying
think.
I understand. Yes, I understand the ideal idea behind it. I understand it. Yeah, we're very good at explaining it. I'm saying after Lebanon signed a maritime border agreement with Israel, I don't think it's a viable approach. You already acknowledge the existence of the whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. I find it too purist of an approach to make. But let's not get stuck on this detail. It's not that important.
But okay.
Anyway,
So, but what do you guys think about, it's a big
I
question.
think it's really important, huh? Anyways.
we made our
Normalization with Israel, I mean, listen, I will make it clear, like, it is like negotiating with your murderer, right? Like, yeah, I get the idea that that Lebanon is also a state that is supposed to be in the class of all these other states, but it's not. It's not a state that can negotiate at the same level. I'm sorry, it has an entire half of its country, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same level of leverage, and so therefore it becomes this thing where it can get left out. It has been left out.
And that's the problem.
It just doesn't have leverage.
The state cannot can negotiate its terms because no one trusts that it can follow through and that people will abide by it. That's a problem. That's a critique of having any militant force. I'm not outside of the state. That's it. People who make this critique make it exactly because of these things. Because the state elected by the people has to be the side that is making the decisions on their behalf and being held accountable, whether in elections or not, after. But we are in a situation which is, I think, a core problem within the Lebanese political scene, which is that the state does not represent its population, partially because there's a military force outside of it. I don't think it works. I don't think any state can function in that sense, whether in a war or outside the war. Now, why are we in this mess? Are there valid reasons for it to be this way? I wouldn't fully dispute this, but it is a core issue. Let's not mistake this.
Yeah, I think on the one hand, the state can't disarm the entity that is, I guess, undermining it, which is Hezbollah. They don't have the power to undermine.
Yeah, but I'm saying in all cases,
they also don't have the power to protect the Southerners and the people who are making up Hezbollah because of real grievances. So the state is almost useless because it can't do one or the other. It can't really protect its people from outside forces, but it also can't, promise outside forces that its people aren't going to resist because it's not doing, so we're caught in a catch-22. And with that, I guess my final question really is, what do you see happening next? I know that's a big question. You might not be able to answer it, but what is your prediction? What do you think happens at least next?
I mean, listen, just speaking about this, maybe it can be like a joint to this next point. I mean,
Right.
there's only maybe one way to solve this problem that is a real worry to any Lebanese person. I mean, the Lebanese army can become more powerful than Hezbollah and disarm Hezbollah.
On the long
And
term, yes.
whenever the Lebanese army is more powerful than Hezbollah, this means that the Lebanese army started having the military capacity to at least stop any offensive, let's say, attack. From there, what's
On the
going to
long
happen
term,
next?
on the long term, I don't think there's an alternative, yes, to
I
having a
mean, it
functional
doesn't. I mean,
state
yes, long term,
that is
we had from 2006 until 2023. What longer term do we need? You know, from 2006, which was the last conflict between Lebanon and Israel, up to 2023, we had all the time to do everything.
yeah.
Like there are reasons for sure why this does not apply in Lebanon, but I mean, I just flagged this to maybe it can pave the conversation to what Afif was asking, like what's next?
I think long term, me and Jihad fully agree on what should happen. I think there's no alternative to having a functional state that is capable of providing services for its own people, capable of providing very basic things that Lebanon does not have, which is electricity and water, even though we are rich in water and telecommunication, and very basic picking our own garbage, which we don't have actually. Very basic things, and to be able to defend the country too, which as Jihad said, we had plenty of time and plenty of resources and plenty of money to do it, but we haven't because we have a very inept political class that has mismanaged the country.
They're correct.
They don't have a real national vision for the country. The defense, of course, should have been part of the strategy to build a proper state. The Lebanese state Lebanon has spent between 200 and 300 billion dollars from the 90s until this day. This is more than enough money, way more than enough money to fund your army. Only if you only take the electricity sector with $50 billion in deficit from the 90s until now, this is more than enough money for funding a Lebanese army. But we are cursed in a political class that is not capable, doesn't have a vision, corrupt, all of this. There was never a political will to do this.
No, they're all short-term gains, very
This
narrow-minded.
applies to Hezbollah, by the way.
Literally
All the political
across the
class.
board, from the north
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the south, the entire political class, including the leadership of the resistance at present, are short-term, narrow-minded, and corrupt ultimately. Like in
Yeah,
taking all of the
right.
things
I
they
mean,
can from whoever's sort of above them. But
all this. Yeah, sorry.
I think that the cause of resistance is a more acceptable cause than the cause of like, hey, let's normalize. But that's where I fall on the thing. Like ultimately, what we need is this generation of us able-minded millennials at this point, like older millennials and Gen Z and the type of people who are sort of more adept at organizing, because at the end of the day it's about organizing people into one like sort of block that works with other blocks that are not so fragmented by their sect, not so fragmented by their sort of ideology on what should happen, but rather more united under the banner of just working together, like literally just being a community of, even if the unity is like in plurality, there's not much to say. It's like so fucking hard to like end a conversation on.
There's on what will happen, Afif. There's so many variables playing. Who would have thought that Iran will condition its ceasefire on Lebanon and actually manage to apply some pressure? I don't know if they would. I would be very skeptical to them going all the way
Right.
and being ready to jeopardize all the negotiations for Lebanon. But for now, they have managed to apply some sort of pressure for the ceasefire to include Lebanon. Like, who would have thought this would happen? There's so many variables playing right now. Let's say, let's give the negotiations the benefit of the doubt. We know that it is okay, they will not accept Hezbollah as a military power. At the same time, they don't want to bear losses. That's why they are trying to cause an internal conflict, because to them, maybe if internal parties are willing to have this fight, maybe they will not suffer the losses that they would if they were to complete the job themselves. So there's so many variables being played out this way. I call me crazy, but I don't even think the Israelis know what to do on a strategic level long term. They are right now dealing with the situation as is. So we will see how it plays out.
Yeah, they're making Iran richer than it potentially could have fathomed, or maybe that it can become richer than it fathomed with this Hormuz Strait, the Strait of Hormuz being told and controlled. So there is really a lot of leverage on Iran's side, and if it does take Lebanon with it, then we're at least kind of blessed to have some sort of regional power protecting us. But I don't know. I don't trust the Iranians.
I think Lebanon should follow.
You know what I mean?
I think a country like Lebanon should not rely on any foreign power for its protection, neither the US, neither the West, neither Iran. It should follow its own interest. I know people sympathize with the resistance. I'm the son of two resistance fighters. There are resistance fighters in my family, so I get all of this. But I know it's a war right now, but I do find it's a structural problem to have a party saying in revenge to the killing of Ali Khamenei, and then say
How
something
are you
after. I think it's a real problem.
Say that. Yeah.
No, but it's relevant to Afif's point because he was saying.
Yeah. I'm just shocked that we went back there.
It's just like,
Of course, 'cause
this
it's
really all
revealing.
started with an
Listen, I just want to
assassination.
comment something. I just want to comment on something we were talking about. I mean, it's just like the idea of not knowing tomorrow what's bringing, regardless of what the negotiations are gonna bring. It's just very clear from the 7th of October till today that the entire region is just stuck on what's happening with Netanyahu's trial. They clearly don't want to ceasefire anywhere.
Right.
There are rounds and rounds and rounds of negotiations in Gaza, and till today they are still bombing Gaza on daily basis. Until they have the will to solve their problems in a different way and realize that the bill the bill is higher than the war. I mean, than a ceasefire.
Right.
We're
Cost is
just
so
under
great.
fire. We're
Yeah,
just under fire.
This is happening because you're saying this is happening because Netanyahu's running from the law, and then he's just extending.
Forget about Iran, forget about Hezbollah, forget about the 6 rockets, forget about. I mean, just look at Gaza. No one is talking about Gaza today. Okay, there are still massacres on daily basis in Gaza.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, this is a sample. Look in Syria, the diplomatic way of dealing with the Israelis. They are chopping every day from their lands. They are bombing them every day, and this is what some people are promoting to learn from the diplomacy of the new Syria. This is another sample. They just don't want to stop.
That's
Until the Israeli regime decide how to solve their problem with Netanyahu. I believe we are under fire. We're just passing through milestone after milestone, through a stage after a stage, from the 7th of October till today. They don't have the will to stop. They don't want to stop.
And they want to keep going until
every day we are in a new fight. We are in a new battle. Today about the 6 rockets. Yesterday about Khamenei. After tomorrow about Strait of Hormuz. Yesterday about the village that intercepted over the Druze. Like they just put you in the loop, and you're
reacting to it.
You're just reacting.
Yeah.
And however they drive the narrative, after 3-4 days, as long as you resist, you will go to their narrative, because they are everywhere. They are machines. They are everywhere.
I appreciate both of you so much for coming on and talking while you're both under fire, really, literally. And, we really appreciate your thoughts and your ideas. And, hopefully this can go out to people and they'll understand. So thank you for being here, both of you.
Thank you so much, Afif, for having us. Thank you so much.
مع عزيز السوري لو اجتمعت لو مع عزيز السوري على الأمة لو اجتمعت الأمة